You should have received your URL and username and password credentials. Browse and log in. First screen you'll come to is your guest room screen, where you should just see your own property name. For the purposes of now, I'm just going to choose a single property. Select search, and all your guest names, either those who are guest in or the most recent ones who have checked out, will be displayed. You can see if they're checked in or checked out here, and the dates that they checked in and checked out accordingly. You can also see the current room status that Jazz has been told of the room. That generally comes from when the housekeepers are punching the room from the phone. If I was to select on a current, on a most recent checked out guest, this is all the information that came from the hotel PMS about this particular guest. Checked in on the 21st of January, checked out on the 23rd of January. There was no group codes or guest types, but there was a VIP code that was present. That was the language the guest was checked in at. And any other activity, if they made any calls, they made one, but it wasn't chargeable, potentially an internal call. The guest is currently checked out, so all of these are greyed out, can't make any changes because it's checked out. But you can see if there was any wake up calls that had happened, that would be displayed as well. If we then move to a current guest who is checked in, I'll choose this one here. Again, real time, it gets all the information from the PMS, so if anything has changed, it's at this point that it will grab that. Guest checked in on the 21st of January at 1:26. Scheduled currently to check out on the 26th of January, so that may change. There's no group code or guest type code, but there is a VIP code, and that's the language of the guest as inputted on the PMS. There were a couple of calls made, but they're both internal. That's the room status that's been selected when the housekeeper has gone to the room. If for whatever reason that needs to be changed, rather than going up to the room, you could change it from here, or you could just change it in the hotel PMS. From here you could set the room to be do not disturb. You can also change the class of service, whether they're allowed to make all calls, external as well as internal, or internal only. If you did select internal only, emergency outbound calls would also be allowed. You can see on here if they've got any voicemail messages. Can't listen to them, but at least you can see if there's any there. And you can turn the light on or clear the light if that's not a feature available on your hotel PMS. And that usually just gives the guest some indication to call the room. So when the guest sees the light on, they'll ring the voicemail and it just gives them a call to action to call the front desk. From here you can schedule a wake up just for this single room, and that would then appear down here. Moving on, if I wanted to, rather than scrolling all the way through all the pages, I wanted to look at room 500, I could just start by pressing number 5, and it will bring me anything that's got the number 5 in it. So I can see 501, 502, etc. If I wanted to from here, let's say I had an issue in my hotel PMS system, I could check this room in from here. You tick the box, these will light up, giving you options that are available for that room. So for example, if I was to check on a guest that was already in, I wouldn't then be able to check that room in again. if I go to a room that's checked out, on Jazz only, I could then check that room in, put in whatever information I wanted, and that would then be a checked in room. I could then do class of service and whatever. So if I then had issues with my hotel PMS, if that was down or there was another reason why I couldn't check them in through the PMS, I could check it in on here. So the guest experience would be that they'd have a working phone and you'd have their right first name and last name. And then when the hotel PMS comes back up, you can then check it back in on the hotel PMS, and that would then push that information back to Jazz. Up here you have the hamburger menu that you can choose various different options from. So at the moment we're in the guest rooms tab, but if I wanted to from here I could have a look at calling activity. Again, all this information is passed straight through to the hotel PMS. So this would only be if there was a report that you weren't able to get from your hotel PMS, or you just wanted to look at it a little bit differently. So for example, I can see all the calls. Most of these are internal or incoming. There's an outbound call, but it's not classed as chargeable because it's from an admin phone rather than from a guest phone. I can filter these down. So go to guest phone. Let's see if there's been any outbound calls today. No, there hasn't. But if I was to change that maybe to yesterday, like I say, yesterday, extension 5017, which is a guest extension, made a call to a London number, and that was the charge. And again, then you can clear all those filters. If you wanted to, you could export that information, refresh it, change your search criteria, whatever you want to see. So I clear all the filters and then take off any filters that I've put on the top here. I could then run a report if I wanted to on some of that activity. You can create various report types. There's a whole different bunch that you can choose from. Schedule your frequency of the report. So let's just choose at the moment a longest calls detail report. How often do I want to see that report? Whether I want it now, whether I want it every day, every week, every month. Let's just do it now. What format do you want that in? I'll just put it into a text format for now. Do you want to receive that via email? You don't have to. What time period do you want to look at? We'll go from the 1st of January, so from the start of the year to the present day. The longer the time frame, the longer it will take to run that report. Call types, so I'm just interested in outbound calls, and I'm also just interested in outbound calls made from guest phones. Wouldn't worry too much about jurisdictions, but you can minimize those and filter those out, and the same with organizational filters. Special filters, again, probably wouldn't make any changes to those, but if you wanted to, you could say I only want a call that's lasted longer than 3 minutes, for example, and then you could submit that report. Now I've already done this, and this is the report that you get, and you can view that report. So then you can see from the 1st of January to the 23rd of January, these were all outbound calls, from which extension, number dialed, and how much they cost. And you can export that and do whatever you want with that information. Next we can look at wake up scheduling and wake up activity. In order to do that, I'm actually going to look at a different property, because this particular property, the Stafford, doesn't use the phones for wake up calling, they do it manually. So I've just changed to another hotel in London. So from here I can set wake up call for multiple rooms. If you have a party in who are taking up multiple rooms and they all want wake up call at the same time, for example an airport hotel, you might have cabin crew, they all want to wake up at the same time. So you can add a room range, so either 100 to 110 or just single rooms as it says up there. It tells you if those rooms are valid or not. So if I set a room range of 201 to 207 and add rooms, it's identified that only 206 and 207 are checked in rooms. So you can only schedule wake up calls against checked in rooms. And then you can schedule those wake up calls for whatever time, whatever date, and whether it's a recurring wake up call for the duration of their stay. And then have a look at wake up activity. So I can see these rooms here. They had wake up calls that were requested. They were scheduled by the hotel PMS, which then passed that information to Jazz, which then handed that information to the guest room phone. Scheduled for 8:45 on the 22nd. It was actually scheduled at 7:45. It rang at 8:44. No answer at 8:45. It tried again 5 minutes later. Tried again 5 minutes later, and it tried again for a third time 5 minutes later. This call was not answered, so that would have then sent a missed wake up alert, either by phone, email, desktop client if that was set up. Also see this guest had a wake up call, also scheduled by the PMS. That was scheduled, that was answered. And then another one was scheduled and that was also answered. You can export this report, Excel, CSV. Next we'll just have a quick look at alerts. So you can have alerts either via desktop alert, email alert or phone alert. Start with phone alert. So generally these will be for unanswered wake up calls or emergency calls placed. You can get an alert when there's no response from the server, and also when a wake up call has been auto cancelled. Generally speaking, the most common are the unanswered wake up and the emergency call placed alerts, and these extensions require additional license but can then be set up to receive those alerts. Phone alerts will require an acknowledgement. When you receive the call, it asks for key press to acknowledge that the alert has been received, and that's both for unanswered and emergency calls. And usually it will tell you the guest in room 123 has missed their wake up call. There's then email alerts. Email alerts don't require a license. Put as many email addresses in here as you like, whether it be an individual's email or a distribution email. If it is a distribution email, make sure that they can receive external emails. And again, you can choose what alerts to receive. Again, the most common, emergency call placed or unanswered wake up call, but you can set for anything else as well. Once you've actually set up one person's email alert, rather than typing in their email address every time, you can just then tick a box as to which alerts they should receive. And the last one is desktop alert. Desktop alert is a client that you need to download to your desktop or your laptop PC, and then you log in with the same credentials that you log into this portal here. And from here you can set which alerts are to be received. Next thing is wake up greeting configuration. There's a system default wake up audio file, but if you wanted it as a specific branded wake up audio file, you could use one and you could upload it. Then there's the Guest Experience Design Studio. There is some supporting documentation to go with this. The Guest Experience Design Studio allows you to upload an audio file and send it to one or multiple voicemails, either on demand at a scheduled time when a guest checks in, or a period of time before the guest is scheduled to check out, usually 24 or 48 hours. You can see this particular site has been using the Guest Experience Design Studio. They used it because they had a general water outage from 12 to 1 o'clock and some noises around those times, some drilling noises. It was done on the 25th of the 11th, and it only went to some specific rooms who were going to be affected. Another one here on the 26th of November, affected a smaller number of rooms. This one here was a promotional message on the 14th of January to all guests. Again, another promotional message about the shuttle bus. And said there's some supporting documentation to show you how to do this. But you upload the audio file. Once you've uploaded it once, it can stay there. You can use it over and over again if it's fairly generic. You create the experience, whether you want it on demand, scheduled, on check-in or check-out, and then who you want to send it to, and you can send it, and away you go. That's an overview of the Jazz portal. Thank you very much.